What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Thanks for diving into the trenches with us again this week. And if you are brand new to the show, welcome home, as we are here seeking to provide you the weekly golden grenades, or critical insights is what we call them, that you need to break through to new levels of satisfaction, fulfillment, and success in your life post-military. You see, with this podcast, we started 2.5 years ago. We found a clear problem for a lot of veterans that were getting out with big visions, but was lacking the human capital and the tools to actually achieve those big visions. And they were just being shoved immediate transitional content like resume writing, interview prep, and job fairs. I know you're smart enough to get it. I don't need to overly explain it with you, but this is a show that once you've got the basics down, now it's time to go to the next level. Ambitious Vet, this is going to be a fantastic episode for you if you're feeling like you're swimming against the current of life. Also, if you're not feeling fully equipped to solve the problems you're dealing with in your life right now. It's not a good feeling to have, right? So what I'm excited about is we're diving inside the trenches with Elise Woodworth, an Air Force commissioned officer vet turned leadership coach. Don't go anywhere. You're going to get tons of value from this episode.
As veterans, we're very used to metrics, right? We're very used to this is your standard of behavior, and you can choose to go above that, and there's no below, right? Like this,
like our PFTs, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
no one wants to do a fat body.
Exactly. That alone, that's the whole story.
Ambitious Vet, if you're listening to this, you're probably a high achiever that values staying focused. And you probably beat yourself up when you're not staying focused and achieving those big rocks, or in our military days, on the rifle range. You ever remember that feeling when you're not staying clearly focused on the rifle range and hitting black every time, pulling the trigger, or just not staying focused on the red dot sensor down your scope? Well, same thing happens when you get out of the uniform in civilian world. And the answer to my secret weapon, my M16 service rifle, this Marine's M16 service rifle, is the Full Focus Planner. It helps you achieve more while doing less in less time. This science-backed productivity system equips you with a clear plan for daily progress, which prompts for 10 life domains, Ambitious Vet, so you can make sure you're focusing on what matters most in all areas of your life. This includes your relationships, career success, personal health, and much more. Tools like the Daily Big Three help me to actually eliminate daily overwhelm and end each day with some big wins, not just in business or career, in other key areas as well that makes my life satisfaction go through the roof, right? So the overall format is easy to follow. You can even choose from several styles and colors to score the planner that feels just right for you. Right now, Ambitious Vet, as I'm recording this, I'm holding my leather brown Full Focus Planner right now. It's teal, and I get one every single quarter. I definitely attribute it to my success. But don't just listen to me. Forbes.com named Full Focus Planner the #1 best daily planner. And also, Ambitious Vet, if you are looking for something to help you stay focused, something tangible that you can fill out every single day and have frameworks to think through and achieve your most ambitious goals, which is hopefully why you're here in the first place, go and check out fullfocusplanner.com/ambitious vet. That's fullfocusplanner.com/ambitious vet. For a limited amount of time, you can get 10% off any new planner purchases, and also save 10% statewide and score a free weekly preview desk pad with purchase of an annual planner subscription. Ambitious Vet, I promise you, once you get the first one and you start seeing you achieve more with less time and not getting so distracted off little petty bullshit, you're going to be subscribing, I promise you. Again, that's fullfocusplanner.com/ambitious vet.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We are right back inside the trenches today with Elise Woodworth. Elise is an Air Force veteran turned the president and founder of Woodworth Enterprises, LLC, a veteran woman-owned small business. Woodworth Enterprises is a full-service business consultancy specializing in organizational culture and leadership development that delivers completely customized insights and innovative solutions that ignite leaders and teams to shape history. She has served on the Virginia Military Institute Board of Trustees as the Donor Relations and Communications Subcommittee Chair, and been an active member of Dulles Regional Chamber of Commerce. She also co-hosts the DC Region Reformed All Call, connecting veteran and mil-spouse entrepreneurs across the nation. Elise, are you there?
I am. Thank you for having me, Chris.
It's awesome. I mean, you're just doing so much stuff, right? I mean, you just said offline here that you have 5 kids running around. You just moved and you're doing everything that we just said. How do you balance it all?
It is a lot of plates to keep spinning. And in one of my recent videos that I post online, I talk about the importance of strategic thought and the innovative mindset and how they play together. But it's part of my strategy for being happy and being successful, having these things going. And so I keep my attention towards them, and it really creates a good environment for me to grow, sets a good example for my children, and lets me help other people at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's great. And let's dive into that, like innovative mindset, right? Like innovation's like a big buzzword. We're hearing it everywhere right now, right? But, innovative mindset isn't really, I'm not hearing that as much, right? I'm hearing a lot about innovate your business, innovate this, but innovate your mindset. What do you mean by this?
So a lot of people, as you say, innovation is a buzzword and it falls short there. I've often said, like, people get turned off by that idea of, oh, we're going to innovate. And, they think we're too big to innovate, or we're too small to innovate, or we don't have time to innovate. And I kind of preach the alternative of don't think of it as something that you're coming up against. Like, it's not a challenge. Innovation isn't, but to approach problems, to approach obstacles with an innovative mindset. And I'll give you a little example. If you think about the river of life, if you think of being in business as being on a river, or being in life as being on a river, you don't always get to pick what's going on in that river. You don't get to pick the obstacles. You don't get to pick how fast or slow the water's moving, wide or narrow. You don't get to pick the white water, to avoid the white water rapids. But then if you think of your mindset like the vessel you're in, like the boat, and if you're in a poor mindset that is taking on water all the time, is really disturbed by those troubled waters that you get into, maybe sits too low in the water, so you're bumping rocks all the time in it, and you're gonna get to the end of that river eventually, but it's the journey and how well that's gone. And if you think of an innovative mindset, think of it like a kayak that's really well made. It's going to sit really high on the water. You're going to be able to navigate around those obstacles easily. And the experience that you get as you are going through those problems in that kayak, as you develop those muscle memories of how to avoid these things, it becomes easier and easier, and the journey becomes more and more fun. So that's put that into a picture.
I love that analogy, right? And I've learned this a long time ago too. You can tell a lot about somebody that can share their subject matter expertise from an analogy or a metaphor like that, right? So it goes to show all the work that you've done to understand and practice what you're preaching here on this show, right? To turn into a metaphor, turn into an analogy. Hey, think like this, and being a guy that's from St. Louis, that was literally on the west of the Mississippi River, and seeing that current, I would have never jumped in that damn river, right? So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So thanks for sharing that. So So when we are hitting those big currents, or we feel like we're swimming against the current of life as a leader, as someone's trying to lead a team or get more effective results, like how do we start shifting, or whatever word you want to put on it? How do we shift that?
Well, to shift your mindset and to get in that innovative mindset boat, there are a couple different strategies that I like to use. One of them is to think above the noise of what you're hearing every day. And we all have inboxes full of people trying to say, you need more clients, or you need your communication strategy.
Oh yeah.
I've got one today that's like, you're not doing it right. And it's clickbait, right? They want you to think that. And they want you to think that they have a solution to the problem they've come up with for you.
Yeah, or just everyday life things, right? Like that
Right.
come up for distractions, like in-laws, family members, spouses, stuff
Absolutely.
like that. And that can
Plumbing.
be overwhelming. Yeah.
Your toilet gets backed up, or
Oh yeah.
fills with water. Like these are all those big obstacles, and they can get really distracting. Or you can choose to focus your mindset above all that. And that's what's really neat about the analogy is you can't pick the river that you're in or what's going on, but you can pick the vessel you're in. And that's something I try to get across to people, is that you can choose to have an innovative mindset. And as you exercise it more, and I'll talk a little bit about the framework of how to do that. As you practice that more, it becomes more and more easy to see an obstacle and instantly evaluate it for solutions.
Yeah, I love how you said, like, you get to choose the vessel. And I think, just speaking to the ambitious vet that's listening to this right now, that's maybe feeling like they're losing. Maybe they feel like maybe they're a mid-level manager in their organization. They just feel like things are just not working out, like turnover is bad, or, there's an ambitious vet and wanting to start a startup that just feels like he can't create, or he or she cannot create the ideas that it takes to get unstuck. I think it's important for them to be encouraged with, you can choose the vessel, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to be at the effect of the current. You don't have to be at the effect of the rocks, anything like that. I'm excited for you to dive into this framework to help them start thinking through some of these problems that they may not be making the time for, or not equipped to make these decisions or deal with these conflicts. So feel free to start diving into this framework.
Great. Well, let's pick one of those examples. Let's do the mid-level manager that is struggling. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things to talk about, because it is such a struggle, and I feel like people run up against that, and it looks like a brick wall every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's look at that example just to run with it. The first thing that you're going to want to do in that situation is pull back a little bit and evaluate the landscape. And we call this framing the problem. So you recognize that you've had a high turnover problem. You can't keep employees. People aren't showing up on time. They're not engaging. All these different things. And so you think any number of solutions. And this is what I've found, is that people will jump to the solution. Well, we need to train. Well, we need to fire and hire. Adjust something.
Like assume something, right? Like it just comes in with assumptions. Yeah,
absolutely. And I would caution you in that situation that you're jumping to a solution. What I encourage people to do, and what I do with clients on, every instance when I work with a new client, the first phase of working with them is gathering insight. And through that process, we pull back and we evaluate the landscape of what the problem they see is that we talk about what that problem is, but then what could be causing it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's they're not getting the communication across and that they need. Employees aren't being communicated to in a way that they can relate with, and so they're not engaged. There could be any number of actual problems that are causing that high turnover, that disengagement.
Yeah.
So if you pull back and if you think about the river analogy a little bit further, you're going down this river and you see a huge tree down across, and it's the whole way. And you can look at that and you can say, oh, that's the end. Just pack it up. Just, go to shore, pack it up, that's it. But if you look at the entire landscape, if you read the river, you might be able to find a side stream that goes down and around. You might be able to find a place to get under through the branches. There is always a way to overcome those obstacles. And I find that pulling back, looking at what's around the problem, not exactly at just the problem, can be really helpful in that first step of using your innovative mindset to overcome those obstacles. The next thing that you would want to do in that case is determine the cause. And so a lot of times, especially with managers, with business leaders, I really encourage them to talk to their employees and gather insight from them as well. I've developed a survey tool that I use, and we call it the Insight tool, that we customize and send out to the entire organization.
Nice.
Is that to gauge not necessarily the problem, but where the strengths and weaknesses are, where those areas of opportunity are, and I'm able to analyze that data and come up with, these are the areas that we can work on. Now that's something I've developed over a lot of time and experience and working with that sort of data and those sort of situations. But that's really the first step in
kind of getting to the what's so, right? Like what I hear in that is like, when you're sending out the root cause, like I love that idea of sending out mass surveys to potential employees or whatever that mid-level manager, their team that they're potentially leading and their capacity within the organization, and figuring out, hey, what are we cutting short on right now? What could we improve? Getting that baseline data that a lot of us don't care about because we're so pushing towards fulfilling whatever the metric is inside the company that we're trying to fulfill on, right? So I love that idea of like analyzing data, kind of getting to the cause. So then how to, whatever the next step is, right? Like,
and I feel like also, as I was thinking about this conversation, as veterans, we're very used to metrics, right? We're very used to, this is your standard of behavior, and you can choose to go above that, and there's no below, right? Like this,
our PFTs, right?
Yeah, right.
No one wants to be a fat body.
Exactly. That alone, that's the whole story. But looking at but thinking about that, and that the rest of society hasn't been held to those standards per se. And so that can be really frustrating, specifically as a veteran, to come up against, I conduct myself to this standard and I expect everybody else to also. Sometimes there's another conversation that has to take place in there that will help other employees, coworkers, sometimes even bosses. You can back lead too. Yeah. Can be encouraging to improve and to be able to, float down that river a little smoother.
No, I love that because, I think there's all different personality types, and you got to know who you're talking to. So that's such a good point on how to manage that. So awesome. What's the next step?
So the next step is to brainstorm solutions. And this is really fun step in the process where you get to throw cost out the window. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
But this is like not what will we do, not what can we do, but what could we do?
What's possible, right?
All the options. What are all the possibilities? Could we restructure our organization? That's kind of going back to our earlier example. Could we restructure? Could we improve benefits? Could we improve communication? Could we, all these different things. You can look at that. There are lots of different ideas, especially for engaging employees, that you can think of to do. Should we have a holiday party? Should we have all sorts of
like team building retreats or whatever? But
should we have a team building retreat if that is in line with the industry? Should we put more time and thought into our strategic plan and communicate that? And then other solutions, and this is kind of something that hits home for me, is like, should I outsource? Is there something I can outsource? And you mentioned that I have moved recently, and I am not organized. I'm not an organized person. In the Air Force, I loved having, like, this is how you fold your socks. This is how you fold your,
exactly,
this is how you make your bed. Like, I really latched onto that. But there's a rule book for real life. So it's not my strong suit. Everything's packed up into boxes. And I call her my organization coach. I chose to outsource because I am not an organized person, but I need to have an organized life. I need, like, my kitchen to function, right? So I found someone that I could trust that was an expert in the particular field, and I brought her in to help. And as I was thinking about this, I was like, that's kind of like your supervisor in the military. You're given a supervisor. Everybody has a supervisor that is more experienced than you, that their role is to guide you and grow you in your career as you go, as you progress in your career. And so when we get out, there aren't supervisors anymore. There aren't life supervisors. But there are experts in particular fields that if you recognize your weakness in them, you can outsource that. You can bring in someone to help with strategic planning. You can bring someone in to help train on better communication. You can bring someone in to organize your kitchen. And it doesn't have to be something you do alone. And you don't have to be in that river by yourself.
Hence, you can choose the vessel, right? Like, you chose the vessel.
Right. And so as you're thinking about that, the solutions to, you've looked at the landscape, you've framed the problem, you have determined what's actually causing it, and now you might need some help, and that's okay. And that's where you brainstorm solutions, and you might have to think a little bit outside of yourself, outside of your organization even, to go and seek those answers, to seek those solutions.
Can I ask you a question on that, Elise, from your expertise for being an Air Force officer and now becoming like a really impactful leadership coach and consultant? Do you see it as, what's the right way to say this? It may not be the right way, so I'm just going to ask it. But do you think it looks incompetent when someone asks for help or leverages someone else's human capital to deliver a result in an organization or in life? Do you think it has you look incompetent or less valuable when you ask for help?
Absolutely not. I think it's a really smart move to make. I talked about the organization consultant, the organization coach, for one example. But if you're looking at cost, just cost alone, if you think of a strategic plan, something that I work with people on frequently, strategic planning, you come up with a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. If that is a solid plan and you continue to grow for 3 to 5 years, the impact of that on your organization is going to be so much better than if you had, shuffled some papers around, said, this looks like a good idea. It's pretty much in the crosshairs. So we're going to go ahead and go with that because it's cheaper right now to just come up with my own way.
Yeah.
And not really flesh that whole plan out.
No, because the reason why I'm asking, yeah, exactly. Because the reason why I'm asking too is because we've all been in the uniform at one point where we had those entitled leaders, right? That was one of the biggest reasons why I got out of the Marine Corps. I love my Marine Corps experience, but they have that slogan where, the ones that should have stayed in get out, and the ones that get out should have stayed in, right? And some of these leaders, even in the civilian sector, can be really title based or position based leaders. And I think that once you identify, hey, in this area of my daily role as a mid-level manager, how can I outsource? How can I ask for help more? Because it's going to actually show that I'm more resourceful and can build leadership around me. I feel like you build more of an economical value in your role. I mean,
right?
Don't you think?
I would encourage at that point conversations, communication. One of the things I often reflect on and tell young people going into the military, learn from everybody, good and bad. So you get those leaders that are really self-centered. They're formal leaders, but not actual leaders, and you learn what not to do from them. And I encourage that completely. But again, you get to pick the vessel you're in, and their poor management skills, their poor leadership is whitewater rapids that you're going to have to navigate. And being in a poor mindset is going to allow that weight, that water, those troubled waters to get in the boat and stay there. But if you use your innovative mindset, if you choose to be aware of ways to work around them, perhaps, I'm not going to say that as a blanket, but as advice. But if you want to be aware of ways to improve your situation, directions you can go in, and sometimes maybe it's just let that water roll off your back, depending on the situation, the team and the structure of it. In some cases, you just accept that and protect those under you from that poor leadership. Say, I'm not being led well, but I'm going to lead well. And you choose to do that. And you choose to, the solution, the innovative solution there is to just, wait it out sometimes, but protect those under you as best you can. And that's different situation. I mean, that gets pretty serious pretty quick. But
no, I love that, because you've got to be thinking outside the box when you're in the box sometimes, right? And you've got to be able to do that. So far we got really mapping out the landscape, finding the root cause, brainstorming solutions. What's the next step?
Action plan.
Yeah.
Come up with the action plan. So this is what are you going to do? And really nailing down, these are the steps I'm going to take, setting your goals. You've got all your solutions lined up, and now you get to say okay, this one I can do. And why we throw cost out in the brainstorming solutions is because oftentimes there are pieces of solutions that you can put together. And if you're looking at a big problem, a big obstacle that you're taking a lot of time to analyze the solution to. Sometimes you can take bits and pieces from different solutions that you've brainstormed.
Mm-hmm.
And put those together into an action plan, into something that you can do, that is feasible, that's in budget, in scope, all those things, and really start to see a lot of change in direction.
Because cost is a huge thing in organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Cost is one of the biggest things, especially during crisis like, a pandemic where retail companies had to completely shift their business model, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you lead and continue to grow as an organization, keep your employees, and yeah, map out an action plan that helps us save costs, but is also effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like real world stuff right there.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And I would, anybody that says cost is really important, or I like to challenge them and say, but think about the profit. And so
Margin,
if you think about profit being, what you're taking in and the costs, so the income and the costs equals profit, right? And if sometimes costs can be high, but if they're going to yield you a good profit, like that might be a smart decision to make. The pandemic is a great example of a landmine, of one of those rocks that's hiding just under the surface, or a sandbar in the river that you didn't expect. And it has caused a lot of people to pivot. In one example, this was another person I hired to do some work for me, got laid off because of the pandemic. And instead of, pushing forward with his IT career that had ended, really, his job had gone away. He chose to follow a passion he had for woodworking and turn that into a profitable business. And so sometimes disruption, like the pandemic, like losing a job, can be a really big obstacle, can be a really big hurdle for people to overcome. But if you look at those problems with an innovative mindset, if you look at the landscape and say, well, what am I really passionate about? Not what am I trained to do, or what have I been doing, but what am I passionate about doing? And what can I do? What do I like to do? And how can I get someone to pay me for that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. That's what helps everything. And if you're starting a business, Ambitious Vet, it's so important to leverage this framework. And if you're a mid-level manager, it's even more important because you have people's lives at stake with your leadership. So if you're not already implementing a plan like this, I request that you reach out to Elise and what she's doing, because this realizing your landscape, the core cause of what's going on, brainstorming solutions, and mapping out an action plan, it all sounds great, but we all know we need accountability too for the execution with the day-to-day stuff that's going on in our everyday lives. And Elise is doing a great job at doing that. And this framework is really, really awesome. Is there anything that you would bring this framework home before we dive into the next segment, Elise?
I would just say, like, really in those solutions, just remember that you're not alone. Like as you're brainstorming solutions, to really remember to think outside and to ask for help, whether it is in business or, organizing your kitchen, or, getting your life sort of straightened out, and widening that river. Anything you can to do that. Asking for help is never something to run away from. And I think that would be my first and go to in the brainstorming solutions phase, is don't be afraid of that.
I love what you just said as far as widening the river. That was really awesome. And Ambitious, I hope that you just caught that. How can you widen your river? You pick the vessel, but you can also widen your river. So I love that. So Elise, we're going to move to our last segment of the show, which is the one last golden grenade, right? So there's an ambitious vet that's been out for at least 3 years, right? Is out there in the trenches of life, maybe lacking some satisfaction, fulfillment, or just clarity at this point of what the next stage is for their definition of success. With that being said, what would be one last golden grenade that you would provide to that ambitious vet? And then we'll give the ambitious vet that's listening to this a call to action.
So I would say golden grenade, you choose your vessel. Remember that, that you choose how people affect you. You choose how you navigate those challenges and what you learn from those experiences that you face on the river of life, as we've used that analogy. And so you pick, you get to pick that vessel, and don't be weighed down by the troubled waters that come, because everybody gets those. Everybody encounters those at some point. We all get hit by the landmine pandemic sort of problems, and life problems, and you get to pick how they affect you and how you move forward.
Nice. No, I love that. I love it. So Elise, where can an ambitious vet go learn more about you? I know you were saying you got some awesome stuff. I know you have some amazing resources on your website, articles, video content that a leader that's looking to potentially hire you right now could go and consume, get to know some of the concepts, more of the frameworks, and your tools that you leverage to help leaders stay unstoppable in leading their teams. But I want to give you an opportunity to share what you have coming up. What do you got going
on? So we have, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can follow hashtag Ignite, Inspire, Grow, which is a summary of our mission. And we try to post weekly articles and insights about innovation, about business, and about leadership. So if you're interested in those topics, give us a follow or a subscribe. We're getting ready to kick off an innovative mindset challenge in October. And this is really to help the last quarter of the year be something where we can work on ourselves, work on our leadership, and get ready for the year ahead, get ready for next year, and change our mindset. It's going to be a free challenge. Subscribe to follow along with it. And all you have to do is a challenge. Bring an obstacle, bring something that's really tripping you up, and we're going to walk through this framework together and exercise your innovative muscle. And so it'll be an opportunity for you all, for the ambitious vet listening, to get an opportunity to try out your innovative mindset. You have one. I encourage everybody that they have an innovative mindset. They just need to exercise it. So this will be an opportunity for that.
We need a kick in the ass, right? And I feel like this challenge will be a kick in the ass for any ambitious vet that's looking to think outside the box and be unstoppable in their life. So, Elise, where can an ambitious vet go to learn more about that innovative mindset challenge?
www.betterwithwe.com. It's we at the end. I get a lot of better with me, but it's not. It's better with we. That's Woodworth Enterprises. Also, we're better and stronger together as a team. I'm very much a team player.
Amen to that. Well, Elise, I just want to say thank you for joining the Ambitious Vet Show. I know we've met through Mark Malay's Reformed networking events, and just how you participate in those networking events is a prime example of your leadership and how you participate in everyday life. So I just really appreciate just who you are, what you're up to, and for just being a badass Air Force officer who got out and hasn't stopped serving in life. So thanks for joining the show today.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you for having me. I think this is a great network and opportunity to reach out to folks. And I hope that you have been ignited or inspired, and that from this conversation you can grow.
Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Ambitious Vet, are you looking to find a more effective weapon to support increasing your focus on an everyday basis as you look to achieve those most ambitious goals in life? And also maybe even just improve in your everyday personal life, your relationships, just hobbies, and just managing everything that has you feel confident in every day of life inside the trenches? Well, the answer and my weapon of choice is the Full Focus Planner. I back it. I buy it every single quarter. It's a little bit of expensive, but I promise you, Ambitious Vet, that every single quarter, what I'm able to get back by utilizing this productive planner, it more than pays for the $50 a quarter fee. It's almost nothing. I can cut back a coffee a day to become more focused and more productive, so I can be everything I can be for every area of my life. But I'm going to stop freaking talking. Go and check out fullfocusplanner.com/ambitious Vet. There you're going to be able to save 10% statewide on your first planner and score a free weekly preview desk pad with purchase of an annual planner subscription. I promise you, once you get this thing, you start leveraging the big three frameworks and all the other methodologies to help you think through your everyday, your week, your quarter, your month. I promise you, you're not going to go back. Check it out, fullfocusplanner.com/ambitious Vet.